As a pastor, one of the most delightful things that I can do is officiate weddings. Probably, I don't know how many times I have officiated weddings, and I know that among our congregation, we have a couples being engaged, and I am excited to see that. And in the October, I am scheduled to officiate 2 weddings also, and that's exciting. But also, as a pastor, I must officiate funerals as well. Now, between 2 different ceremonies, wedding, they plan ahead. So you know within 2 months or after 6 months that you need to officiate your weddings. But whereas a funeral, there's no schedule. Something happens to your family member, your beloved ones, and as a friends, as a church members, that we want to be with them, with a grieving family, to be comfort. And also as a pastors, within just a few, 2 or 3 days, so that we need to prepare a funeral and we need to be there. And sometimes because we are a large church, as a pastors, I probably have gone to more than 100 different funerals. And because of this funeral, we need to reschedule our meetings and so forth. But that's okay, because we want to be with our beloved church members and with our family members and with our friends. But when I go to a funeral, that I see the power of death. Over 200 people or 300 people get together within just 2 or 3 days of notice. Be there because there is a death to the power in death. Because we all grieve. Because we lost someone we love, and so forth. So we can manage, we can override our own schedule, we maneuver with our own time and with our own money and so forth. Even sometimes we have to fly to different states to partake or participate funerals and things like that. So we are okay because we love our friends, we love our family members, we love our church members. So we can do that. However, from today's passage that I want to talk about is someone who is only half dead. When Jesus was sharing this illustration, he said, and he was answering actually to a lawyer who came to Jesus, and he was testing Jesus. How can I receive eternal life? This question, the most important question in our life for everyone. So this lawyer was tempting Jesus, saying, how can I receive eternal life? And Jesus said, you have asked this question well. Well, what does the Bible say? What does the law say? Well, the law says, love your God with all of your heart, all of your life, and all of your might. And likewise, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, you read well and you interpreted well. Go live like that. Then this lawyer wanted to justify himself because Jewish people, to their understanding, to their custom, neighbor is only Jewish people. Otherwise, other nationalities, they are Gentiles, they are unclean people, and they did not have any association with them. So to them, their neighbor is only Jewish people with their own nationality. So he wanted to justify himself, saying, yes, I love the Lord and also my neighbor. I have my Jewish friends, I have my Jewish family members, I have a Jewish synagogue members and so forth. I serve them, I hang out with them, I have a dinner with them and so forth. So I am justified. That means I have inherited eternal life. Can't you say that, Jesus? So who is my neighbor? He wanted to justify himself. Then Jesus came up with this parable. It was sort of shocking and surprising to the listeners because in this illustration, he was sort of elevating Samaritan, whereas a Samaritan was despising to the eyes of Jewish people. So let's turn our Bible to book of Luke chapter 10 from verse 30 through 37. Through this parable, maybe in this afternoon, Jesus is talking to us as well, because we may be like the Jewish people. We know the Bible, we know the Lord, and we've been serving God wholeheartedly for many, many years. We grew up from this church. I was born in Christian family and so forth. I know the law, I know the Bible. I think I love God. But let's hear what Jesus ought to say to every one of us this morning or this afternoon. Starting from verse 30, book of Luke chapter 10. Let me read 30. You can read 31. So let us alternate. And Jesus answering said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment and wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead. Let's remember this, half dead. Go ahead. And likewise, a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him and passed by on the other side. And went to him and bound up his wounds, and pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. Which now of these three thinkst thou was a neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said, he that showed mercy on him. Then Jesus said to him, go and do thou likewise. Amen. Jesus is sharing this parable, but to Jewish people of that day, they understood what was going on. Jesus was always contemporarily sharing in his parable. So back then, the distance between Jerusalem and Jericho, even now, today, is about 19 miles. With the automobile, I visited Jerusalem about twice, and it took us about 20 minutes in a bus. But the height, the difference in their heights of two cities is vast, because Jerusalem is located in high up in the mountain, Mount Zion. It's about 2,100 feet above sea level, whereas Jericho is located about 846 feet below sea level. So it's going down and down and down. But back then, they didn't have any other transportation apart from maybe donkey or on the foot. People will walk down from Jerusalem to Jericho. And back then, the road from Jerusalem to Jericho was called the Bloody Road. Why? Because many, many robbers will be hiding themselves, and as they see people traveling, that will suddenly appear and take their clothes and take their possessions and even beat them to almost to death. So this was what happened. So it was a normal of that day. People were traveling, but it was a risky road. But as Jesus was sharing this parable, he did not say it was a Jewish man or Samaritan. I believe purposefully he didn't say of that man's nationality. Why? Because to Jewish people, they are only concerned with the same nationality, their own people. They consider Gentiles as unclean people. But as Jesus was continually sharing his story, first, priest came to the scene. Now, between Jerusalem and Jericho, back then, historian says that there were about 12,000 priests and Levites lived between two cities. So it was pretty casual for priests to travel on that same road because they want to go back to the temple of God and fulfill their duties. So this priest is walking on the road, and he sees a man half dead, naked, beaten, bleeding. But he was fighting with his own belief. Why? Because a priest was not allowed to touch that body Otherwise, you'll be unclean for 7 days. So it becomes so uncomfortable. You need to reschedule your own duties. So it's becoming nuisance. What a nuisance to go, and if he's dead, if I touch him, then I cannot fulfill my duties for 7 days. My schedule, I cannot spend the time with my family next few days, and all these hassle. I don't want to go with it. So he goes to the other side and walks and goes back to Jerusalem to fulfill his own schedule. Then there's another man, Levi. And this class is also another privileged class. He knows the Bible in and out. He is considered as a privileged tribe out of 12 tribes. This man is better than the priest. He goes towards this half-dead man and looks over. He's not dead. He's not fully dead. He knows the condition, but yet he doesn't do anything about it. He still goes to the other side and walks towards his own destination. Then Samaritan. Who is this Samaritan? Despised by Jewish people. They lived in the region called Samaria, most of them. Now the number dwindled much. Wikipedia says that there are only about 200 Samaritans living in Israel. But anyways, historically we know who these people are. When northern kingdom of Israel fell by the Assyrian army, many of them became captives, and they went to Assyria and scattered. But there were remnants living in northern part of Israel, around Samaria. These people are baser sort of the people, lower class, ostracized by society. Maybe these were like thieves and robbers and so forth, or maybe farmers and things like that. So there were some remnants living in Samaria. Now, worse than that, a Syrian king, for the political reason, he wanted to have their own people, thieves and robbers and baser sort, and brought Assyrian people to Samaria. So let them mingle together and assimilate it into new people. So they were not fully Jewish, they were not fully Gentiles. Mix them together. Now, as we continue to read the Bible, when they were about to build a second temple, Jewish people did not allow Samaritans to come and join the efforts. So Samaritans became angry, and they built their own altar in the Mount of Gerizim, and they began to worship God. Supposedly, they were worshiping same God. So history tells us that there has been great conflict and hatred between two peoples. And it was continuing during the time of Jesus. But Jesus is portraying this Samaritan with a good work. To them, to Jewish people, this illustration, this parable was very, very offensive. Not only that, there was one certain occasion when 10 lepers came to Jesus for asking for healing. All of them departed, but only one Samaritan came back to Jesus and thanked him. Not only that, from this parable, this is very offensive to Jewish people, to priests and Levites and Jews in general. Why? Because this Samaritan will come as he's traveling, like any other priest or Levi. He has his own schedule. He has his own purpose to fulfill. But yet, this man goes nearer to this half-dead man and sees him. Not only he has a compassion over him, he pours his own oil and wine and binds his wounds. And not only that, he takes him and put him upon his own donkey or beast. He walks, this half-dead man is carried by his own beast and goes to the inn and pays the owner of the inn whatever it is necessary to take care of him. I will pay. And on my way back, after I fulfill my journey, I will come back to you again and fetch him. So whatever you need to spend the money over him, I will repay you. So this is Samaritan. Not only reschedule his own plan and his own journey, he uses whatever he has, his money, his oil and wine, and his own transportation, his donkey. So everything he has, he pours upon this man. He has no association, no relationship at all. And Jesus asked this question to the crowd. Now, out of these three people, who is the neighbor to this half-dead man? And everybody knows, we know the answer. Samaritan. To answer that, it's breaking their ego, their pride. It's a Samaritan. It's not my priest. It's not my Levi. It's Samaritan, that dog. Because to them, it was a dog. Even Jesus said it too. That Canaanite woman, when she came for her daughter, who was severely demonized, and I am sent to the house of Israel. I'm not sent, but only to the lost sheep of house of Israel. I cannot give my food to dog. And this Canaanite woman said, if the children or even dogs under the table, they can eat the crumbs, where the children have loosely ate. That's how they said. So Jesus called this Canaanite woman dog. How much more so Samaritan in the eyes of Jewish people was a dog. Now, let's examine these people. First, the priest. He knows the Bible in and out. He's the top, highest class among Jewish people. He was honored, he was respected. He knows the law. The law says, if you touch that person, you will be unclean for 7 days. I'm a pastor. I think I know the Bible. There are many, many things that I need to still learn. But I oftentimes struggle with what I know, with my own belief system versus my heart or compassion. You know, just like what Jesus said, that I am not sent, but to the lost house of Israel. As EM lead pastor, I am not sent, but to the lost sheep of house of EM, English ministry. But because I am able to speak Korean, and this is a larger church, that I am asked by Korean-speaking congregants, oh, this couple is having problem, can you go to them and counsel them? But I'm thinking, I'm sent to English-speaking congregation. Am I able to go there to them and minister them? They have their overseer. They have their own group pastor. That's violating their jurisdiction. Should I go there? So I'm debating. So how that pastor will despise me after I find out that I'm touching his sheep, not my sheep. You know, take care of your own business. That's not, he or she is not your own business kind of thing. You know, I'm thinking that way. But for some reason, this couple, their hearts are not open to that particular pastor, and they're asking me. So what I do is I call them to come to my house on Mondays. Why Mondays? Because Monday is supposed to be my rest day. So either way, I'm free to utilize my own time for my family or things like that. So I call them to come to my house on Mondays, so my conscience is free. Or sometimes I will ask them to come when I do front desk duties. You know, as a pastor, so we alternate each day from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. for 3 hours. So you need to receive phone calls from outside and things like that. So I call her to come on Friday during my front desk duty so I can counsel the lady. I mean, we do that. We know certain things, like when we drive highways and we get off on certain street and we say we see homeless people, and we know and we heard that person is addicted to alcohol or to a drug. If you give money out of your own compassion, but that person will waste it for alcohol or drug. So you better not give them money. But yet, you have a compassion, and with your knowledge, you're battling and things like that. And sometimes you wait there and you ignore that person. You are looking at to the signal straight, and why doesn't the signal stay as red forever? Why isn't it changing? You feel so uncomfortable. Sometimes the Holy Spirit will convict us, and we open the wallet, and there is a $50 bill, and we end up giving and things like that. And once I was taking team to India, and I trained team members. You know, when we go there, especially in New Delhi, nearby airport or nearby marketplaces, there will be young kids, children, like 4 years old or 10 years old and things like that. They will come to you and asking for money, and they look so poor and poverty-stricken, and you have a pity over them. But don't give them money, because if you begin to give money to one child, then all these children hiding from somewhere and found one who is compassionate, and they will all cling on to you, and you'll end up being robbed. So we trained them. So I go there, but, I want to harden my heart not to be compassionate, because there'll be always a pimp behind them, because these adults are using them as a bait, looking for these people who are pitiful or things like that. But once I see this 8, 10 years old girl carrying her younger brother in her arms and comes to me and begging for money. So I look around and I find no team member. So I open my wallet and begin to give money. Then I find the 20 or 30 kids suddenly all approaching to me, and I'm caught from other team members. And, in our life, we do that. We do that. We try to hold on to what I believe or what I know versus how my heart is moved. And maybe that priest was like that. He wanted to be faithful to what he knew. Or maybe he didn't want to be bothered because he wants to go ahead and fulfill his own plan, and he want to be abiding to his own schedule. Maybe Jesus was talking about our own selfishness, because we don't care about other people, because we only care about ourselves, our life, our own family. I'm busy. I don't have time. This money, I need to use it for my own pleasure, my own leisure time. This is mine. We set this strong wall and boundary, and no one can intervene. We don't want to be bothered. We don't want to be hectic because of somebody else. And that's why certain pastors said there is the most poisonous fish, and I want to say this again, is called selfish. Selfish is the most poisonous fish in the world. And you and I, we have it. Not in a crystal ball, but inside of our heart. It's called the selfish. Maybe Jesus was talking about that. You think you love God with all of your heart, but likewise, you love your neighbor, but you are bounded by your own schedule. You're bounded by your own need. You're bounded by your own possession, and you cannot share. And also, us, we are Americans. Americans are big with a relationship. We want to be faithful to our own relationships. So if he is my friend or she is my cousin or things like that, I go to their weddings, I go to their birthday parties, and I go here and there. But if I don't have that relationship, we need to build the relationships. We say, if I don't have that relationship, that I can care less. But here, there's half that man. He has no relationship to priest. He has no relationship to Levite. He has no relationship to Samaritan either. But yet, Jesus commanded this Samaritan. Who is true neighbor? Who is a true neighbor? So we will see, if we look for the people surrounding our lives, we'll be surprised for those people who are in great need spiritually, emotionally, and physically. But if we look around our neighborhood, starting with our own church, God has been sending many newcomers to our ministry. Praise God. Praise God. But I bet there will be some people, old-timers, who grew up from this church, who has a strong bond with the old-timers, so comfortable, but you didn't care to stretch your arm and say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so." If you haven't done so for the last 3 or 4 months, shame on you. Because you didn't want to come out of your own comfort zone. You are so faithful with your own relationship. You didn't care how God was sending His sheep to this ministry who is insecure with these new people. And you didn't care. Because you are so comfortable with your own relationship, with your own time. That's how we are. We are all selfish. It doesn't matter whether we are Christian or not. If we begin to look around emotionally, there are so many people who are lonely, so many people who are needed your ears. Just be there to listen to their problems, listen to their lonesome events. Just be there. There was one old woman who had such a happy life with her husband. But unfortunately, they didn't have children. But this man passed away. She became so lonely and became depressed. Eventually became suicidal. It was all about her life. Why? Why did my husband die sooner than I? And so forth. Then she met with her pastor. This pastor encouraged her, instead of focusing your own life, that you are so lonely and you are depressed, you don't have anyone besides you, and so forth, why don't you look around, even starting with the church? You'll find some kids who will need your hand, your touch, your ears, and so forth. She took the advice. She began to look around her life and her circumstances, and she began to find a person who needed her touch, just giving a phone call, saying hi to that person, and inviting the children who have broken family, the parents away, or so forth, and invite them to her house and provide them with a dinner and so forth. Gradually, her spirit came alive. She began to be a vital person, began to influence other people. When we try to focus our own need and our own life, we can be miserable people, unfortunate. And we can complain against God. Why am I like this? Why is my life this? And so forth. But when we try to go around and look around, just like what Jesus said, that Samaritan has become friend to that half-dead man, then you go and do likewise. He said, go and do likewise. Go preach the gospel. Go make disciples. And go do likewise and become neighbor to these people. We'll be surprised when we begin to look around our life. There will be emotionally half-dead people, spiritually half-dead people, physically half-dead people. Unless we begin to give and share what we have. It's just like that good Samaritan. He began to give what he had. We'll be surprised at how much we have already. What we have, we begin to realize. So, what Jesus is telling to us this afternoon is, Christians, my beloved children, my beloved people of God, go and find neighbors who are in need by sharing what you already have. Go find the needy people and help them by sharing what you already have. That's what he says. That's what he's saying. Good Samaritan, he overrode his own schedule and bended it. Is it bent? And he ruined his own journey and his schedule. He poured out his own wine and his own oil. He spent his own money and his time, and he gave his own physical hand to that man to mend, to heal the wounds. We have so many blessings from God, and we don't realize it when we focus on our own life. But when we begin to share and give to other people, then we realize how much we have and what blessings we already have. The reason why we came up with a mission called Here and Now. Here and Now. Our church is a mission-focused church. We take the gospel to uttermost parts of the world. We go to India, we go to Afghanistan, we go to Tajikistan, we go to Argentina, we even go to Mexico, we even went to Navajo. But physically, our church has been located in the city of Fullerton at the corner of Valencia and Brookhurst over 10 years. But no one came up with an idea to take the gospel to our neighbors across the street. To go to India, we need to raise our fund, maybe up to $3,000. But to across the street, it takes you $3 of your gas money. If you are to come to this church to get together to pray and receive a training, if you are coming from Irvine, or maybe $4. To think about this, it's kind of bizarre, don't you think? Maybe Korean-speaking people, they may have an excuse, because of language. But us, we don't have any excuse to go to them. Why? Why is it? Because most of them, I believe, spiritually have dead nearby us, in our street. In our street. So I believe there's another side of this parable that Jesus is trying to teach us. Because when he demands us to do certain things, he always shows example by his life first. Otherwise, he will not demand it from us. So from this parable, let's think it in spiritual way. Jerusalem represents presence of God. That was a temple of God. Jerusalem, the Zion, is always a place where God dwells. His presence is manifested. And someone traveling from Jerusalem, Jericho. Jericho is a cursed city, as we know from book of Joshua, as they conquered that city by circling around 13 times, and the wall broke down. And God said, no one should build a wall upon this city. If anyone does it, that person will be cursed and will die. And we found at the time of King Saul, certain sons wanted to rebuild the city, and they all perished. So the Jericho represents the cursed city. Jericho represents our world. Us spiritually left God, and we mocked at God, and we said bad things against God, and we said, we don't need you. I am independent. I don't need God. We left God, and we're living in this Jericho. And in Jericho, on the road, there's a Satan. Satan comes to lie, to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And we were half dead. Spiritually dead, utterly dead, and physically, emotionally, we were half dead. The law came, crucified us. Law came and said, you are sinners. And we were dead. A good Samaritan, Jesus Christ, came to our life. He left his own throne. He left his own glory. He left his own schedule, his planning. He came to earth and stayed with us. He died on the cross, shed his blood, and rose again. And by this good Samaritan, eternal good Samaritan, we are saved and we came alive. We no longer are half dead. And Jesus says, go do likewise. Yes, there are people physically needed. There are people emotionally needed. But more so, there are so many people spiritually half dead that we need to go to them. Because Jesus said, don't wait for the people who are needed. Don't wait for people who are suffering. Don't wait for them. You go and do likewise. We went far distance, but we didn't go across the street. But we want to do that. We want to do that. Saturdays for pastors are such a precious and important day. I don't like to have a meeting on Saturday. I don't like to create events on Saturdays. Why? I want to be alone with God, preparing sermon and meditating and praying before God, because I need to make my vessel, holy vessel, to lead a Sunday worship. But I believe if we begin to give that precious time Saturday morning, how precious is it? Because you went to theater and you were at the computer desk all night long on Friday night, and to wake up at 6 a.m. on Saturday, that's too hectic. Nuisance. What a nuisance. But we come, we pray together, and we get trained. And we form teams, and we dispatch them to our neighbors. You want to become a neighbor. Because we want to go and do likewise. Because what we have, every Christian, the money cannot buy, time cannot buy, the world cannot provide, is a salvation. The message of Jesus Christ, the gospel we have, is much more precious than any kind of diamond or jewel in the world. But that is tainted in us because we put it in our own life and we never thought about sharing it. When we went to Navajo, out of 72 team members, when we trained them and formed them into teams and dispatched them and shared the gospel, so many people said negative things about Navajo Nation. Oh, these people worship moon and earth is their mother, or all these. But we knock on the door of houses, and most of them are open to us. Yes, some of them shut the door on our face, but most of them were receptive. Until we go and share the gospel, until we begin to give what we have, this a tremendous treasure, the gospel, the eternity, the salvation, we begin to share with the half-dead people, and people will come alive. People will be ministered. By us sharing that, when our spirit has been quenched, and some of us spiritually have been drudging and down. But when we begin to share, when we begin to give, the gospel that we have will begin to shine the light. And our spirit will come alive, just like that older widow. As she began to give and share, she came alive. Our spirit will come alive even more so as we begin to give to other people. I'm not saying you need to do this and you need to sacrifice every Saturday morning forever, because the training will be simple. We tried it. Within 2 hours, you can take it and share the gospel. So maybe a few Saturdays you can come. If you have a certain obligation, you can skip one Saturday, only one Saturday, and come back again. But let's do that, because the Word of God is a sword. Unless we stretch, unless we throw and draw out the sword, we don't know how enemy will respond. But if we put it in our sheath, nothing will happen. The gospel that we have is a spreadable. The gospel we have, that we possess, is a multipliable. The more we give, the more we share, multiple people will be saved and will be multiplied, and they will also have a gospel message to share with others. How's your schedule? How are you focused with your own life? The more we focus with our own, the more miserable we will become. But let me end this message with a promise that Jesus has spoken to us. Book of Luke chapter 6, verse 38. It says, give and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. Men shall give them back to your bosom. However you measure, you'll be measured back to you. That is a promise. Give. Give your time. Give your possession. Give your money. Give your talent. Give your hand. Give your body. And see what God does. Not only by our sharing, people will be ministered and we will see multiplication, but also within us, these will be returned back to us. Those team members who went to Nava, 80% of them, it was the first time in their life which shared the gospel. And they came to me and said, because we shared the gospel, my spirit has been quickened, my spirit came alive. I was so spiritually down, but when we began to share the gospel, my spirit came to life. Why? Because of the Holy Spirit that came to us for the first purpose was to testify that Jesus is the Lord. When we begin to testify who Jesus is, that eternal good Samaritan, our spirit will come alive. Not only spiritually, but emotionally and physically. Would you not be a good Samaritan? Let's pray together. Can we all stand up? Jesus gave everything he had, his own life, his own blood for us. Not only we had no relationship with God, but we were enemies to God. The highest calling, Jesus said to us, was love your enemies. And that demand itself, Jesus shown it by his own example, by loving us, by dying for us. And he commands us, go and do likewise. Become neighbors to those people who are in need by giving what you have. We have this treasure, eternal treasure. The world cannot buy it. The world cannot afford it. If we are Christians, we have that. And not only that, we have so many blessings. We had so many answers to our prayers. We have so many possessions. But unless we begin to give to our neighbor, even though I don't have that relationship, we'll find out how much we already have. Let's ask God to forgive our sins, being so selfish and so self-centered and so self-observing. Let's ask God to fill our heart with his love, unconditional love. Let's ask God to follow the example of Jesus Christ, our eternal good Samaritan, to become neighbors to needy people, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Let's ask God to send us. And let's ask God to open our eyes and look around our life and to find the people who are in need, who are lonely, who are depressed, who are spiritually dead. Let's ask God to send us to our neighborhood. Let's call the name of Jesus 3 times and pray. 1, 2,